25% of the class I've lost just for technical issues. Anyway. I want you to look at this map here. It's 1914. We're on the eve of World War I. This is a map from the German perspective. It doesn't matter if it's Germany or Austria. Remember, they're allies, so they share the same perspective. If we look here at Serbia, what do the Germans think of the Serbs? They are pigs. And is a pig ever satisfied? No. Serbia, from the German perspective, is sniffing around Austria's knee. This corresponds to an area known as Bosnia. Keep that in mind. Now, notice what else Austria has a concern about. Look at Italy, represented by this Mario Brothers-like figure, sniffing around this area here where Italians live. From both the Austrian and German perspective, look how they feel threatened by Russia, that Russia is going to swallow it up at every moment. You guys, what did I say about that? I gave you a free midterm when I see you about to open your mouth, right? And we did, you didn't stick up to the bargain, but every time I pause when I see you about to speak, okay? Look at Russia about to swallow Germany and Austria. At the same time, what is France's, and right here, that is Belgium, okay? So, you get an idea how it seems like World War I is going to break out at any moment. All it takes is a single spark. Henri.
One question. In this picture, it looks like Belgium is the weapon German soldiers holding.
France's hand.
So is it a German soldier holding the Belgian weapon?
Yeah.
Does that imply that Belgium is part of the German alliance?
No, that means to attack France. Belgium is going to have to be invaded, you see.
Oh, it's going to be through that. Okay.
Yes, and that's exactly what happens in World War I. That's okay. Now you guys can talk as much as you want, just while they fix that.
It's not that Belgium was like pointing against the difference is the fact that Germany invaded
Belgium. Yes.
Is the period between the late 19th century, so like 1880s to 1915.
To World War I, with the Belle Epoque was ended by World War I.
Okay. But that concerns political movements, social movements, artistic movements, everything. So I can use it in my essay. So like how my Italian family was affected.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
I noticed in the map that the Ottomans and Italy was depicted as being aligned with Germany. Did this happen before the actual relations and alliance happened?
I mean, pull it up. Feel crazy.
Yeah.
So the way Italy and the Ottoman Empire, what about it?
Because if I recall, the earlier parts of the war...
Be loud. Shh, now class begin.
Because if I recall, earlier, Italy was still on the side of the Central Powers, and the Ottomans also eventually were.
So Ottoman Empire will eventually ally with the Central Powers, and Italy will defect.
But that's after 1914.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. You see, from the German perspective, right? Italy is seen as a potential threat.
Okay.
Okay. Let's watch the following that explains how World War I erupted.
Study European science from books they bought from the Dutch. We're talking geography, skeletons, physics, chemistry, astronomy, and maybe even electricity. Over time, the economic and cultural prosperity began to gradually slow down. Knock, knock. It's the United States, with huge boats, with guns, gunboats, Open the country. Stop having it be closed.
Hey, did you catch it?
Slow down. Knock, knock. It's the United States. With huge boats. With guns. Gunboats. Open the country. Stop having...
Matthew Perry, yes, that was the first Matthew Perry, okay. And of course, recently another Matthew Perry went down in history. Yeah, is it too soon? Yeah, sorry.
Having it be closed, said the United States. There's really nothing they could...
Comparte la alegría esta semana de Black Friday ahorrándote hasta un 45%.
This is Squid Game.
People's true colors are starting to come out.
Let's just do this again.
To study European science from books they bought from the Dutch. We're talking geography, skeletons, physics, chemistry, astronomy, and maybe even electricity. Over time, the economic and cultural prosperity began to gradually slow down. Knock, knock. It's the United States. With huge boats. With guns. Gunboats. Open the country. Stop having it be closed, said the United States. There's really nothing they could do, so they signed a contract that lets the United States, Britain, and Russia visit Japan anytime they want. Choshu and Satsuma hated this. That sucks, they said. This sucks. And with almost very little outside help, they overthrew the shogunate and somehow made the emperor again and moved him to Edo, which they renamed Eastern Capital. They made a new government, which was a lot more Western. They made a new constitution that was pretty Western, and a military that was pretty Western. And do you know what else is Western? That's right, it's conquering stuff. So what can we conquer? Korea. They conquer Korea, taking it from its previous owner, China, and then go a little bit further. And Russia rushes in out of nowhere and says, "Stop, no, you can't take that. We were going to build a railroad through here to try to get some warm water." And Russia builds their railroad, supervised by a shit ton of soldiers. And then when the railroad was done, they downgraded to a fuck ton. Did I say downgrade? I meant upgrade. And Japan says, "Can you maybe chill?" And Russia says, "How about maybe you chill?" Japan is kind of scared of Russia. You'll never guess who's also kind of scared of Russia. Great Britain. So Japan and Great Britain make an alliance together so they can be a little less scared of Russia. Feeling confident, Japan goes to war against Russia, just for a moment, and then they both get tired and stop. It's time for World War I. The world is about to have a war, because it's the 1900s and weapons are getting crazy, and all these empires are excited to try them out on each other. Meanwhile, Japan has been enjoying conquering stuff and wants more. And the next thing on their list is this part of China and lots of tiny islands. All that stuff belongs to Germany, which just had war declared on it by Britain because Britain was friends with Belgium, which was being trespassed by Germany in order to get to France to kick France's ass because France is friends with Russia, who was getting ready to kick Austria's ass because Austria was getting ready to kick Serbia's ass because someone from Serbia shot the leader of Austria's ass. Or actually shot him in the head. And Britain is currently friends with Japan, so you know what that means. Duh, Japan should take the islands. Which they wanted to do anyway, so they called Britain on the telly to sort of let them know. And then they did it. And they also helped Britain a little here and there with some errands and stuff. Now the war is over, and congratulations, Japan, you technically fought in the war, which means you get to sit at the negotiating table with the big dudes, where they decided who owns what. And yes, Japan gets to keep all that shit they stole from Germany. You also get to join the post-war mega alliance, the League of Nations, whose mission statement is to try not to take over the world. The Great Depression is bad, and Japan's economy is food, which is...
Where we stop. So, let us review what this very good example of popular historical memory told us. It's Sarajevo. It's the summer of 1914. Sarajevo is the major city in Bosnia-Herzegovina. It has just been annexed by Austria. There are a group of southern Slavs. Today, people we would call Serbs, Croats, and Bosniaks, who believe that the occupied city of Sarajevo should be part of a Slavic state, a southern Slavic state that today we would refer to as a Yugoslavia. A secret society has now planned an assassination. The Archduke of Austria is visiting Sarajevo in kind of a show of force to claim that this is ours, Matthew. Yeah. Okay, so in other words, what is being planned is a group of assassins are stationed along the street to kill this particular person. One has a grenade. The grenade is thrown, lands on the street, rolls over, and kills the bystanders. The assassin who bought the grenade bought it on the black market. And the grenade is a dud. It doesn't work as promised, okay? But what does this assassin now have to do? The assassin has been exposed, right? The police are going to come after him. Remember, he's a member of a secret society. So what does he do? His initial instinct, as he has planned, is if the assassination fails, he's going to jump into the river and drown himself. The thing is, the assassin doesn't come from Sarajevo and doesn't realize the river is only 6 inches deep. So he thinks he's going to drown himself. Instead, he lands feet first and breaks both of his legs instead. So now can you imagine this? You're sitting in a river. Your legs are broken. Okay. You failed your assassination. But what does he have? He has a cyanide pill. He has a cyanide pill. And he says, they'll never catch me alive. And he swallows the cyanide pill. Now, the thing is, he bought the cyanide pill from the same person who sold him the grenade. That's also a dud. Do you know what expired cyanide does to you? It doesn't kill you. It makes you vomit. It makes you puke. Okay, if you think you're having a bad Monday, think about this. Never forget the guy with broken legs in a shallow river, puking his heart out, and who eventually does get caught. Now, one of the people part of the plot down the road is named Gavrilo Princip. He sees the initial assassination fails. Okay. So what does he do? He goes for a coffee and a sandwich. And once he comes out, he pays the bill. Who is turning around the corner hoping to visit the people who got injured in the attack earlier? It's the Archduke of Austria. And what does he do? He pulls out his gun, assassinates the Archduke, okay, in one of the most famous assassinations in history. So much so that we can make a meme out of it. Okay. And this becomes one of the ways you're going to learn what this lecture is. It's not really the history of World War I. It's the history of death. Remember when we began our class with the assassins? And the medieval cult that used to take hashish. Now we've reached this particular point. And this is an assassination that's going to have a ripple effect. Henri.
And what was the initial belief as to why they wanted to kill him?
Oh, very easily. Balkan nationalism, Slavic nationalism. So remember what I said, the previous lecture was on nationalism. It's a Slavic nationalist. Notice I don't say it's Serbian nationalist. That's the myth. Because Serbs who are Orthodox Christians, Croats who are Catholics, okay, and then the other group, Bosniak, who are Muslim Slavs, were part of the assassination plot, okay? So technically, people who would have been Lauda's group, who today call themselves Croats and Croatian nationalists, right? Back around 1900s, they were originally just wanting to become Slavic people free of Austrian or Germanic control. Isa.
This was like just after the war on the Balkans, so in 1912 and 1913.
How do you know about those wars? Did I tell you about them or you just knew about them?
I studied.
Okay, very good. So let's go back. Very good. So I'll tell you just what happened since Isa brought it up. Though there had been wars in the Balkans to establish independence from the Ottoman Empire. So if you want to look at the first war, it's actually just to see the interrelated nature of this. And this is introducing you to a theory known as neo-realism. Once you get to our theory, and neo-realism is all about structures that govern the behavior of nations, governs the behavior of relations between nations. It actually began with Italy invading Libya. Libya was part of the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire controlled all the way to Libya. It controlled the Balkans. While the Ottomans were distracted in Libya, a newly independent Serbian kingdom said, this is our chance to expand. Now, why does Serbia want to expand? Because it basically says this. With our logic of nationalism, wherever there are Serbs, they should be ruled by the Kingdom of Serbia. And they were Serbs in the Ottoman Empire. So basically, Serbia launched war in 1912 with an alliance with other Balkan nations, such as Bulgaria. Then what happened? The Ottomans were defeated in Libya by the Italians. They were defeated in the Balkans. But then what happened? The Balkan allies in 1913 started to fight with themselves. Okay. Serbia wanted to expand. Bulgaria wanted to expand. In 1914, the Third Balkan War is about to begin. And this time it's not between Serbia and the Ottomans, it's between Serbia and the Austrians. The whole point of neorealism says this: because a Balkan War was going to break out now between Serbia and Austria, okay, other countries now wanted to get involved, such as Russia. Now, sorry? And first, let's look at Russia. Okay, and then we go to Germany. Russia sides with Serbia. Again, let's go back to our nationalism lecture. In the name of Slavic nationalism. Now, what are the Slavs? Well, you already know. We covered them early in the class, right? Germany is going to side with Austria in the name of German nationalism. And see how the entire now alliance system is set up. Because of identity, modern identity. This is what is going to make World War I modern. I'm going to show you the modern weapons, but at the same time, you have to look at the modern ideas that animate it. I'm not sure if you can get this meme. That's Gavrilo Princip. I took this picture in 2014 in Sarajevo. This is literally the cafe where Gavrilo Princip was. This is the door he came out of. This is where the Archduke was. This is where he killed him. Look at what it said, the street corner that started the 20th century. So what is the argument here in Sarajevo? What do they mean by the 20th century? World War I is going to lead to the Russian Revolution. The Russian Revolution is going to lead to the creation of the USSR. The creation of the USSR is going to lead eventually to the Cold War. That's what this museum is saying. I can show you a bunch of maps of the war. This isn't a class on military history. I do want you to focus on this corner here. It's the so-called Western Front. And here we see it zoomed in. There's the Eastern Front. Austria invades Serbia. That's the Balkan Front. And eventually the Ottomans are going to take part, allying with Germany and Austria. Italy will ally later with Britain, France, and Russia. What makes it a world war was that it involved the colonies of Britain and France, and the US will eventually get involved. The major theme of this class is modernity. And what we're going to see here is a very modern thing about to occur. Let's go back to the front lines. Because Germany took France by surprise, and the hope was they would march into Paris, like they did in the 1870 war. But instead, what happened? Germany was stopped outside of France, and a series of trenches were built. Okay. The French and British dug in, the Germans dug in. But the thing is, the French and British couldn't accept this because Germany was digging in on French territory that was occupied, in addition to Belgium. With the trenches, a new weapon had to be developed to overcome the static lines. Nobody was gaining territory. The German high command had an idea, and they approached a chemist named Farber, who was developing something to deal with another modern issue, and that is modern agriculture. I want you to realize, if you have a field of produce in front of you, okay, if you have a field of produce, how do you make sure you keep the bugs off of them? What do you have? Pesticides. You have to invent them. Okay. Okay.
Wasn't there a problem with the European environment having any more nutrients?
Sorry?
Like I know there's a friend of Einstein, and he then
Farber was a friend of Einstein, exactly.
He then helped them develop a recipe.
So basically, they approached Farber and they said, "Yes, can you help us develop a pesticide?" Now, I want you to think: what does chlorine do in a pool? Okay, mosquitoes will never lay their eggs in a chlorinated pool, for example. Yes, it keeps. So, what's a good pesticide? Would be chlorine. It's a good way to keep insects dead. And the German high command approached Farber and said, "Chlorine could kill insects in a concentrated dose. Can it kill humans?" And Farber said, "Yes, and I could develop it for you." What are we seeing here now? I want you to realize here, it's a continuity. Now we're going to begin at the next stage in our class. And like I said, this is a class on the history of death. And here becomes the mass production of death through the release of chlorine gas. I want you to draw a straight line from this picture here to the gas chambers in the concentration camps. Because the same tactic is going to be used by Germany to kill a mass of people. The only difference is in World War I, it was the British and French troops. In World War II, it would be a good part of Germany's population, most of Poland's Jewish population, most of the Jews of Europe are going to be killed by gas. It's the same phenomena. All the changes is the way it's delivered. The minute the gas is put into these canisters, it's released. And this is what I mean by mass death. This is why I say we're getting to this point now where our class is going to end in the history of mass death. This is a class now on the history of death. Look at this cloud. This cloud is indiscriminate. These aren't cannons. These aren't bullets. It's a massive cloud. And when the cloud is released, do you see how the German soldiers are here? The idea is they have the gas masks. They march on. The enemy has no protection. Now, when I say this is mass death, what do I mean by this? Well, we go to this primary source, the diary of a German soldier who participated in the first chlorine gas attack. This was an account meant for his son. And if we read it, here it goes. This great cloud of green-gray gas was forming in front of us. We suddenly heard the French yelling. In less than a minute, they started with the most rifle and machine gun fire I've ever heard. Imagine if this cloud is coming to you. So you're very much set up like the trenches, right? Imagine if you're now, except you're not sitting, you're standing. And if you see this cloud approach you, what is your first instinct? Is to fire, to stop it. And you fire everything in your hand. It's not going to stop it, right? Then what happens? They start firing the cannons of it, every machine gun, every rifle. Imagine that. Every single weapon on the enemy's side is now going off trying to stop this cloud. Now, remember, the Germans are ensconced in the trenches on the other side, right? The wind kept on moving the gas to the French lines.
Esto es una alarma de incendio. Abandonen, por favor, el edificio inmediatamente por la salida de evacuación más cercana.